Hey, what's up guys? In this video we will have an in-depth look at Elige on the CT side of Inferno. I will focus on the system he uses to get a high rate of success, and by showing some of his examples I hope you can pick up a few techniques that help you to get better results on Inferno in the future. Starting off with a round against Astralis, we'll see an example on how Elige likes to peek middle at the beginning of the round. So first of all, he uses this Molotov that lands at the bottom of mid, and then waits for a flashbang from his teammate. As you can see, this flashes anyone at the bottom of middle and even the underpass position. We can see that this set of nades is something that Team Liquid has already prepared beforehand. They use the Molotov at bottom of mid. This way anyone coming from the ramp that wants to peek middle is now forced to either get into the underpass or walk up in front of the Molotov. In both situations, as you see, they will then be vulnerable to that flashbang from Nitro. So with this set of nades, Team Liquid knows that the most likely angle for an enemy to be in is at underpass position. And that's why you'll see Elige pre-aim for that angle, which gives him a quick and easy kill. After that kill onto Magisk in underpass, a lot of other players would also try to take down that second player who is flashed in middle, which was Device in this round. However, if we play the clip, we see that Elige decides to fall back into long instead. You might wonder, why does he do this? Why doesn't he also try to get that second kill onto Device? Well, there is a clear and obvious reason for this, and it is due to the timing from the players running up second mid. By the time Elige gets that pick onto Magisk, who is in underpass, both Dupree and Glaive are already at the top of middle, and they will be able to trade if Elige decides to stay any longer at this angle. So to prevent this from happening, Elige, after getting that first kill, instantly decides to reposition and get himself into more safety. The next part of this round is also quite interesting. So we see that Astralis are quickly pushing up short. After throwing some nades at long, Elige then decides to fall back to side by holding this angle behind default. A smoke comes in that lands between the default box and the wall, this way blocking off the vision from long or library to short. An important element of this smoke is that it functions somewhat as a one-way. Elige uses this to his advantage, and instead of waiting for the enemy's push to come, instead he himself pushes into the angle of short. This way he gets a lot of information and actually spots that the Astralis players have left this part of the map completely. So what does this do for the round? Well, because of this information, they can now rotate their players back to that B side. As you'll see in Elige's POV, he has a confident read on the fact that Astralis will commit all of their forces to that B execute, not leaving anyone behind as a lurker. That allows him to quickly rotate from banana, without caring too much about checking all of the corners. By the time he arrives at the B side, it's only Dupree remaining for Astralis, and he is an easy target because he still needs to plant the bomb. A good rotation from Team Liquid due to the information gained by Elige at short, winning them the round and also the match against Astralis. In round 10 against North, we see once again that same Molotov at bottom mid being used. Now compared to that previous example against Astralis, we see that he doesn't use it the same way and instead just falls back to long and acts as the rotator to help out the B players if necessary. So why show this Molotov, and why does he use this Molotov in the first place? Well, it's very important to be unpredictable in CS. Another way to put it, you want to make it difficult for your opponents to read what you are doing. So if he would only use this Molotov the times that he actually peeked top middle, then it would be easy for his opponents to read the situation and counter it by playing it safe at ramp, for example. Continuing the round, Nav goes down at car and Elige will immediately rotate to the support Stewie at B side. Stewie already used his smoke to stop the push. So once Elige arrives at this angle in CT, he will then hold for anyone creeping through the back of the smoke from Stewie. It is important that he is actively holding this angle, because at the same time Stewie is playing anti-flash at coffins, so he doesn't see if anyone is pushed up close. By the time this smoke starts to fade, Elige uses a jiggle peek to clear out the angle that was previously covered by the smoke. After clearing out that angle, Elige then uses his smoke to re-smoke that same angle once again. Now stopping the round right here, we see a valuable habit from Elige in his micro movement. As you can see, after he throws down the smoke, he instantly moves to the left. And by doing this, he makes it more difficult for enemies to catch him off guard by decreasing the angle to the corner of the wall. This allows him to go through the animation of taking his M4, while having a lower chance of getting peeked by the enemy. It might be a small detail, but it just goes to show that even at the micro movement level, Elige has a good habit that allows him to have consistent success. Continuing the round, Elige then gets that kill onto Kierby, who was distracted by Stewie at coffins. That brings us to the second element of this last part of the round, which is this smoke that is thrown by the attackers to CT. We can see in this case that Elige decides to instantly peek into the angle and start spraying by the time he sees the smoke land at his feet. This is something that you'll see him do quite regularly, and he seems to be quite successful with this move. So why is that the case? Well, for Yugi's perspective, he is first of all shortly exposed due to the animation of getting the gun back in hands after throwing the smoke. Second, a common play from the CTs would be to flash through the smoke, and that's why you see Yugi facing the wall to try and prevent this flash from having any effect. But instead of just waiting for his teammates to rotate, Elige goes for the opposite play and does the aggressive peek that results in 2 quick kills for him. Another example of taking mid control while also being unpredictable is again using that same Molotov that we see towards bottom middle in this round. As we saw in the previous 2 examples, one time he peeked only into the underpass angle with the support of Nitro's flash, another time he didn't peek at all, and this time, as you will see, he will shortly peek into second middle. This way we have already seen one nade that is used in 3 different ways, so for the enemies it's quite difficult for them to read where Elige will be, and this way it will also be difficult for them to counter him. A big reason for Elige's success is his structured approach and his good habits that he can always fall back to. In this round we see a double stack of his teammates towards top middle and long, that allows Elige to stay a bit more passive and short in the beginning of the round. So Elige decides to go for this high explosive nade towards the window of apartments, and as you can see, thrown at 125, it deals a lot of damage to Gate and manages to take him down to 65 HP. This followed up with a short wallbang to then peek into the boiler angle at short. Now one thing to mention here is this jiggle peek for the boiler angle. He could also just swing wide and go for the straight up gunfight if there was anyone in boiler. However, as you can see, Elige goes for the safer approach that allows him to get information and even a small opportunity for a quick headshot. If there was anyone with a rifle in boiler, then the chance of them killing him would be very low, since they are probably only able to hit him in the shoulder. This way, even after seeing an enemy, Elige can still fall back and take another angle somewhere at the side. Let's watch another example that shows why peeking into the boiler angle is often better than holding the angle for a longer period of time. In this match, Jakim from Renegades is responsible for clearing out the apps. Because Elige is the one holding the deagle and Twist has the FAMAS, they chose to put Twist in this deep angle below porch and have Elige act as the player that can watch the balcony. By the time Jakim now comes into boiler and peeks towards short, he doesn't see anyone holding or defending this angle. Now, because he just cleared this angle, he might have a false sense of security, and his attention towards short is probably slightly lower once the angle has been cleared. And that's exactly when Elige peeks and gets the quick headshot onto the unsuspecting Jakim. This is a small detail, but it is something that pro players will do quite often, since it allows them to only fight when they are fully prepared to hit a shot quickly. Let's go back to that previous round against North. It seems like the read from Team Liquid comes in that it will probably be an A execute from North. With 4 players at A, it gives the opportunity to have a good crossfire position between Nav, who's at side, and the balcony angle. So to achieve this, Elige first throws down this Molotov at short to prevent anyone killing him during the movement to balcony. With this crossfire set up by Team Liquid, it becomes quite a messy round for North. Once the balcony smoke comes in, Elige uses it to hide and create chaos for the attackers who are stuck in there with him. He actually manages to run into Gate, who is also in the smoke. After finally taking him down, he then finishes the round with some nice follow-up kills onto the guys in short. In round 13 of that same match, we see another defensive setup from Team Liquid. This time they decide to have 2 players in the halls of apps. This is Twist, who's up close, watching the right side angle, and then Nitro as the backup with the AWP to hold the left side angle. So what does this mean for Elige? Well, since Nitro is usually helping him by holding either long or short with the AWP, Elige is now left alone to defend both these parts of the map himself. That's why you'll see him, in this particular setup, be more aggressive towards this position, where he has vision of both mid and boiler at the same time. A second advantage achieved by this positioning is that he is now close to peek into apartments if any follow-up for the players and apps would be required. During this round, Elige is slightly too late to get the trade kill in apps, but he does manage to get a good timing in front of the Molotov from second middle. He reads the situation here and finds that nobody is in window at the moment, which gives him the chance to get a kill on the guys in middle before falling back. Another good habit to note here is his Molotov that he uses to safely exit boiler. This way, anyone at top middle is forced back even more and allows Elige to safely get behind the wall in short. At this point, Elige is down to 51 HP, so if he would now go to a conventional angle, where he goes for the equal gunfight, then he would be putting himself at a disadvantage due to the lower hit points. So instead what Elige does is he comes to these stairs at Graveyard and plays from the headshot angle. This way, by playing the headshot angle, he minimizes the effect that low HP has on his chance of winning the next fight, and this way increases once again his chances of success. Unfortunately for Team Liquid, North decides to go for a B execute in this round, leaving them no other option than to save. Another similar example towards mid control early on in the round is this one. As we can see once again, Nitro and Elige make their way towards top middle, and this time Nitro actually uses the first Molotov towards bottom mid, which is then followed up with a high explosive nade from Elige. Also in this example, it is Elige once again that manages to get a kill onto the player that is going to underpass. And right after he takes him down, we notice that he swings his crosshair to the left, because he is expecting that peek to come in from the player that is pushed up second middle. But same as that round against Astralis, Elige prefers to fall back and not challenge the angle. Nitro unfortunately makes a small mistake of actually peeking into it and goes down to the quick AWP kill from Yugi. This is bad luck for Nitro, but this example clearly shows why Elige is always quickly falling back from that angle, and once again shows the good awareness of the timings on this map. That makes it a 4v4, which is often in favor of the attackers. So how do they approach it from here? Elige falls back to this position at long, where he can both watch the smoke and at the same time be in a position to quickly help out his teammate at A side. Because Stewie is up at the sandbags near car, Team Liquid can rotate Nav to come and help with the defense at A from library. So once Elige has bought enough time for Nav to rotate, he can then try and make a way towards the bomb site, where he can create a crossfire with twists. Unfortunately for them, Nav goes down to the player pushing up long, and even though Elige's position at default allows him to deal with that attacker, he still didn't expect the second player to be there and goes down in the end. You'll quite often see Elige do the following. In the beginning of the round, he heads over to Banana and uses his Molotov and high explosive nade to help out his B defenders. This way, his B defenders can either use their nades and take Banana control, using that extra utility from Elige, or sometimes they might decide to just use Elige's nades only, and this way buy some more time for the B defenders later on in the round. Team Liquid uses this approach quite often, especially in the rounds where Elige is defending long, because this is one of those positions that has quite a lot of freedom and doesn't depend as much on having high explosives and Molotovs to fend off the attackers. After throwing the nades, he instantly rotates back to Arch, where it takes this angle. I want to highlight this positioning right here because I feel like this is something that a lot of players forget about. Due to the timing of first going Banana for the nades and then rotating all the way back through CT to arrive in Arch, an attacker could have already sneaked up into this corner from top mid that peeks into Arch. Elige is very aware of this possibility and seems to try and prevent dying in this situation by holding an off angle instead. It's only once Stewie rotates from B and helps him out that he will peek into the angle, where he gets the kill onto Flusha. At this point, Nitro is alone at the side because Twist has gone down. So because Nitro will probably need some backup soon, Elige then decides to make his way into this corner at long, where he uses a smoke at default followed up with a flashbang above Graveyard to make his way into the side. The smoke itself provides a lot of cover and allows him to stand on top of the box and even have vision towards the balcony of Abs. He even gets his quick spray onto Crims through the smoke before switching his attention back to that balcony position where he expects the last player to be. But in this round, JW decides to not peek from apartments and saves the AWP instead. A small trick right here. This smoke lineup at default is a good way to smoke off short from side. With this smoke landing at short, it has a small gap on the right that allows Elige to jump onto the pallet in the corner and try to surprise anyone not looking in long or top middle. In this round he doesn't manage to land a headshot, so he quickly decides to fall back instead. So we've already seen an example where Elige is the rotator for Team Liquid on the CT side of Inferno. In this round we have a similar scenario, where Elige first supports Nitro with a flashbang for top middle. After this he is basically juggling between CT and long, before finally rotating to CT once his teammates at Banana go down. By the time he arrives near the CT angle at B, he first uses this Molotov to make sure the push from the attackers gets delayed. Now the surprising thing here is the move to also peek towards Banana straight away right after throwing the Molotov. JKS got caught by surprise himself. When he was still in the process of throwing the smoke at CT, Elige peeked into the angle and quickly killed him with a headshot. I'm not sure if Elige heard the reload sound of Azure, but after getting that kill onto JKS, he instantly decides to use a high explosive nade as well, that bounces against the wall and manages to take down Azure, who was in the small corner on the left. After this, Nitro then throws a flash from CT that Elige uses to peek into the angle again and kill Jakim, who was coming from Banana. We started the video with a round against Astralis, so let's also finish the video in style with an example against the Danes. In this round we see Elige once again use a default Molotov for the top of Banana, followed up with a deep smoke and a nade bounced off the wall. Notice while he's rotating that both Twist and Nitro have taken very safe positions to make sure that they don't go down while they're only playing two players at A. After waiting a little bit, Nitro smokes off top middle. Elige uses this time and decides to creep up close behind the smoke, and once the smoke starts to fade, he even decides to push through the smoke. This play works out perfectly for him, since he manages to catch Dupree and Glaive by surprise while they are throwing their utility. You might feel like this is a very risky play and won't work out every time, and I would definitely agree with you. However, this is once again one of those examples of trying to take calculated risks and trying to be unpredictable. It sort of makes sense if you think about it. From an attacker's point of view, it's quite common to use the smoke at top mid as cover to get yourself ready for some utility. Once the smoke starts to fade, you then throw the utility, and that's exactly where Elige capitalizes on the play, and he manages to break open the round with a 2-man advantage that gives them the chance to more easily win the round. After this, once the B execute from Astralis finally comes in, Elige already rotated from CT and is now in this position behind the coffins, and by the time the attackers push onto the bomb site, he, with a Krieg in hand and some good spray control, mows down the last 3 Astralis players and wins the round with an ace. And that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the CT expert format where we had an in-depth look at some of Elige's habits and techniques that he uses to get consistent success. Hopefully some of these techniques are something that you haven't thought of before and may be a good addition for your own gameplay in the future. If you liked the video and want to see more of these breakdowns of specific players on certain maps, then feel free to leave a like or a comment so I know that you are enjoying this type of video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.